Hi, I'm Joe Sillay with Federal National Commercial Credit. This is a series of videos addressing the subject of pricing in the factoring and asset-based lending industries. I'm going to be doing a new video about every week or two, published through Federal National's video library on its website. We'll announce it through our blog, LinkedIn, Facebook, maybe even with a few tweets. So if you'd like to subscribe to the blog or link to us or follow us or tweet us, whatever you'd like to do, you'll know when the new videos come out. Enjoy today's video. Thanks for watching. Most people think that they can approach pricing in the factoring and asset-based lending community much the same way they would look at pricing in banking. But it's not like banking. Banking's a regulated industry. Pricing and the structure of pricing in banking is pretty consistent from bank to bank. Yes, some have a few fees here or a few fees there that are a little bit different, but by and large, it's the rate that drives the cost. By and large, the fees don't create very significant swings in what the true cost to you as a borrower might be. On the other hand, in factoring and asset-based lending, very often there is a rate component to it that you might be tempted to compare to the banking industry. But the fact is, it's often the fees in a proposal for factoring or asset-based lending that are the large part of the cost. Certainly they can be a very significant part of the cost. So it's important to look at how those fees might be structured, where those costs might fall in a factoring or asset-based lending relationship. I don't want to demonize factoring and asset-based lending by any means. My company, Federal National Commercial Credit, is a factoring company. And you know, we have these features to our pricing too. But it is important to note that every factoring company and every asset-based lender is going to have a different fee structure. There's not a lot of consistency. They may have some semblance of being the same, but they really do tend to work very differently from one institution to the other. We've all heard the expression, the devil is in the details. And it couldn't be more true than here. I would tell you, I've been doing this 20 years. I've been looking at proposals for 20 years. I've been quoting pricing for 20 years. And I will tell you that it is difficult, if not impossible, to understand what your true costs are going to be from a verbal quote, from a number on a website, or even from a written proposal. There's just not enough information there. Let me have you look at this PowerPoint I've prepared to go over a few things that you really have to have in place before you can begin to understand what the costs that you will incur will be. These are the things you need to pull together before you can even begin to understand what your costs might be in a factoring or asset-based lending relationship. A full application package. None of us like to do the paperwork. We're all very busy and that's tedious. It's no fun at all. But if you don't give a complete application package to the factor or asset-based lender you're talking to, they really don't know about your business, what they need to know to accurately estimate what they might charge for providing service. In exchange for you providing that complete package, in fairly short order, they should be able to get to you with a thorough written proposal. This is not just a summary thing with a rate on it. It really should be a very thorough proposal that summarizes the costs that will appear in the factoring agreement. A sample factoring agreement. It's way too soon at this point to expect them to complete the agreement that you will sign, but they should be able to give you a sample that is 99% of what you're going to see in the agreement that ultimately you're going to have to sign. This may be the most important piece, your time and full attention. This is a complicated, important business agreement that you're embarking upon. You really do need to set aside the time to understand what's in those documents and to understand the way they will work with your business. You're the one that knows most about your business, and you're going to have to interpret those documents within the way your business functions. Trusted advisors. You have people in your community that you use for business purposes that you're going to need to rely on to help you figure this out and make sure that you understand it correctly. They would be your accountant, they would be your business partner, they would be a lawyer that you trust. They will also be your banker. You know, your banker may have turned down this loan, but trust me, a banker wants your business. They want to do loans, and when you get ready, they're going to want your business. So bankers are pretty sharp on this stuff. Pull them in on it, see what they think. So trusted advisors, that's the last most important thing. So these are the things you need to pull together before you can begin to understand your costs in a factoring or asset-based lending proposal. These are the videos that will follow in the series on factoring and asset-based lending pricing. Let me walk through them a little bit with you. Fees and rates. Most of us think we know what's going on there, but I guarantee you I can come up with some things to tell you about the way rates and fees work in a factoring agreement that you really need to know when you're trying to figure out what it's going to cost. Turn and time function. This ties into the rates and fees, but by turn I mean how quickly do your accounts receivable pay? Do they pay in 30 days? I know your terms are probably net 30, but I bet your customer actually pays you in 35 or 40 or 45, sometimes longer. This can influence what your costs are, and I'm going to walk through that with you in that video. Advance percentage. That's the amount of each invoice that's going to get advanced to you when you finance it. There are all kinds of ripples in this one that I'd love to talk to you about, and that's what that video is going to address. Settlement, credit, and float. This is one that most people never see in the agreement. This is all about when you get credit for an invoice that pays in from your customers. When do the fees turn off, and when do you get the rest of your money on that invoice? Very, very important. Hold turnover. This is a bit of an industry expression, but it means all or none, essentially. A hold turnover relationship might mean that all of your invoices, all of your customers' invoices have to be assigned to the factor or asset-based lender. It may mean that you have to finance every one of those invoices, even if you don't really need that much money this month. So we'll go into that in more detail in that video. Facility fees and minimums. This is whether or not there's an annual charge for this agreement, whether or not you have certain minimums you have to meet by the month, by the quarter, or by the year. Application charges and out-of-pocket expenses. You know, that's a big bag of tricks there, and you've got to understand exactly what falls into them. I'm going to talk to you about what those charges may be and how to get clarity around what they're going to be in your relationship. Term and renewal. How long do you have to stay in the relationship, and what does it cost you if you leave? And what occurs when the term renews a year down the road, or 2 years down the road, or sometimes even 3 years down the road? Aged item. Most factoring and asset-based lending agreements require that the invoices remain below a certain age. Well, what happens if you have an invoice that gets to that age? Are there charges? Do you have to pay that money back? We'll go through that in detail. Special services. There may be other kinds of services that are offered that sound very attractive and probably are, but there are often fees associated with those as well. We'll go through some of those that you might see and talk about how those costs and fees might work. I'm Joe Sillay with Federal National Commercial Credit. This has been the first in a series on pricing in the factoring and asset-based lending industry. Follow us on Facebook or Twitter or our blog, LinkedIn, to know when the next in the series comes out. Thanks for watching.